He's a rogue, all right, notorious for his flamboyant lifestyle. Flashy clothes, fancy parties, fine women.
Are you his daughter? No, I'm not. Are you his daughter? No, I'm not.
And fast cars.
You should from now on address me as the mayor.
If ever a man and a municipality were made for each other, it is this man, this place.
Long before she met Doug Emhoff, she dated some prominent men, including in 2001, former talk show host Montel Williams. Back then, he was the famous one and had to introduce her to the paparazzi.
Kamala Harris.
Republican like sorry. I'll start again.
Yep.
Do you view it as at least Republican like sorry. I'll start again.
Yep.
Do you view it as at least a partial victory that you have?
We all watched the television coverage of just yesterday. That's on top of everything else that we know and don't know yet, based on what we've just been able to see. And because we've seen it or not doesn't mean it hasn't happened. But just limited to what we have seen.
If I can ask you, Madam Vice President, President Biden has said that Americans will feel some pain for the sake of defending freedom and liberty, but there does seem to be no end game in sight. How long should Americans expect? How long should we be bracing for this really sort of historic inflation and some unprecedented gas prices?
Sure.
Is the United States willing to make a specific allocation for Ukrainian refugees? And for President Duda, I wanted to know if you think, and if you asked the United States to specifically accept more refugees.
Okay. A friend in need is a friend indeed.
Okay, I can first. Okay, so this time.
It's little wonder that Ukrainian President Zelensky's former press secretary said this of Kamala after that chuckle-happy performance with the Polish president. It would be a tragedy if this woman won the presidency.
Ever since Kamala Harris became the de facto Democratic presidential nominee, Republicans are talking an awful lot about her time as a California prosecutor, particularly the accusation that she jailed parents whose kids were chronically absent from school, otherwise known as truancy. Whitley Yates, the director of diversity for Indiana's Republican Party, even highlighted that claim right here on last week's The Sunday Show.
I'm talking about, like she stated, when she was a prosecutor and the way in which she prosecuted parents for the truancy. I'm talking about when she...
Not a single parent went to jail for that, by the way.
And did. And she...
So that's incorrect.
When she was...
Let me pick up on Amisha Cross's not a single parent rebuttal and set the record straight on this. It's true. Kamala Harris never sent parents to jail for their kids' truancy.
I would not be standing here were it not for the education I received. And I know many of us will say the same thing. And I believe a child going without an education is tantamount to a crime. So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy. Well, this was a little controversial in San Francisco. And frankly, my staff went bananas. They were very concerned because we didn't know at the time whether I was going to have an opponent in my re-election race. But I said, look, I'm done. This is a serious issue, and I've got a little political capital, and I'm going to spend some of it. And this is what we did. We recognized that in that initiative, as a prosecutor and law enforcement, I have a huge stick. The school district has got a carrot. Let's work in tandem around our collective objective and goal, which is to get those kids in school. So, to that end, on my letterhead, now let me tell you something about my letterhead. When you're the DA of a major city in this country, usually the job comes with a badge. And there is often an artistic rendering of said badge on your stationery. So I sent a letter out on my letterhead to every parent in the school district. outlining the connection that was statistically proven between elementary school truancy, high school dropouts, who will become a victim of crime, and who will become a perpetrator of crime. We sent it out to everyone. A friend of mine actually called me and he said, Kamala, my wife got the letter. She freaked out. She brought all the kids into the living room, held up the letter, said, if you don't go to school, Kamala's going to put you and me in jail. Yes, we achieved intended effect.
2013, in the morning, I'm in my pajamas. I had just fed my daughter, gave her her medications, sent her off to school. Little did I know, there was a warrant out for my arrest. All of a sudden, the police is outside my house, and they started banging on the door. I opened up my door, and 2 officers entered my home. They told me I was under arrest for my child missing school. They said I was going to jail. I was shocked. I said, but my baby is sick. The school knows that. And they said, go talk to Kamala Harris. Place your hands behind your back.
My mom did nothing wrong. We did everything we were supposed to. I was always bringing doctor's notes, always calling the school to let them know that I was in the hospital.
Then they handcuff me. So they take me outside for what you call a perp walk. And oh my God, the TV news was there, the newspapers were there. You could swear I had killed somebody. It was degrading and humiliating. I was taken to the Criminal Justice Center. They took my mugshot. I was fingerprinted like a criminal, and I was terrified.
And it felt like I caused her so much pain because in reality, it is because of me, even though I know it's not directly my fault. Sorry.
The next day, the Orange County Register showed the pictures of my arrest. They even had a close-up picture of my hands in handcuffs to show here's a black mother being arrested.
It was a truancy rate at over 2.5 times that of white students.
Everyone knew most truant kids were black. I think Kamala Harris wanted me as an example to threaten other single black mothers, like, this can happen to you if you don't get your kids in class. The police even put out a press release naming me and other black single mothers like Toya Daniels, who got arrested the same day.
Children didn't show up to class, so the parents ended up in handcuffs. Local law enforcement hopes it sends a strong message to parents to get involved in their child's lives. Well, tonight, KCRA3's Leticia Ordaz spoke with some mothers who spent the day behind bars.
My son is in a charter school program, and they still arrested me.
Tonight, this mother, who would not give us her name, was released after spending the entire day locked up at the Sacramento County Jail.
How did you feel, though, to be arrested today? It's degrading, it's humiliating, it's harassment.
Today, 100 officers throughout Sacramento joined forces with the district attorney's office to arrest nearly 40 parents who had warrants for not sending their children to school.
The importance is that we want to get a message to the parents that you need to send your kids to school every day and be on time every day. We want to get those kids educated so they don't fall in the cracks, they don't get in trouble with the law.
It's a message this parent got quickly.
Make sure your kids go to school.
When she was released from jail this evening, she was too upset to talk. Her brother Richard, who would only give us his first name, told us the truancy sweep targeting parents was unfair and humiliating.
Oh, I'm not happy because I feel it was a waste of time. I feel that they could have spent this time going after criminals, looking for a child, not doing a truancy sweep.
See the hoods that they're wearing. Obviously, they know the school has cameras.
Vince Matrenga is the police chief for the Sacramento City Schools. He can only hope this sweep will get more students in the classroom during school hours and fewer teens destroying school property after hours.
When kids don't go to school, everyone loses.
Many parents are bailing out of jail tonight, but one mother who's been arrested before will have to stay here for 45 days. In Sacramento, Leticia Ordaz, KCRA 3 reports.
But my hell was just beginning. They gave me 2 charges: failure to supervise and encourage school attendance, and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. I couldn't believe it. They framed my daughter as a gang member and basically charged me with neglect. I spent the next 2 years in court fighting these charges. Kamala assigned her nastiest prosecutors to my case.
my homicide prosecutors, my gang prosecutors. And they went over there and I said, when you go over there, look really mean.
Like 10 different prosecutors. They kept pressuring me to plead guilty and spend a year in jail. But I kept refusing because I did nothing wrong. All the time I had to spend going to court, I was struggling to care for my Shayla. I lost my job and couldn't pay rent, and we got evicted. I became homeless. We had to move into a motel.
And I ended up being in the hospital a lot during her trial. And in that hospital stay was when I had my stroke. I had a stroke about 4 or 5 days ago. And right now I'm doing pretty good. But my hand is doing okay, I guess.
In 2015, after 2 years, they finally just gave up and dismissed my case. In 2018, the Supreme Court of California ruled that truancy cannot be punished by incarceration. It was unconstitutional. The courts finally stopped Kamala Harris' abuses.
It's people who own guns who are quietly sitting on those guns, and those guns might end up being the weapons of the destruction of a community because they get in the hands of some kid who decides that they like what they see on television and they want to act that way. So this is about just basically saying that we're going to require responsible behaviors among everybody in the community, and just because you legally possess a gun in the sanctity of your locked home doesn't mean that we're not going to walk into that home and check to see if you're being responsible and safe in the way you conduct your affairs.
So let's rewind to 2005, shall we? When Kamala Harris, a district attorney of San Francisco, supported Proposition H. Proposition H banned the manufacture, distribution, sale, and transfer of firearms and ammunition within San Francisco, and banned city residents from possessing handguns within San Francisco, and confiscated the guns people already had by giving them 4 months to turn them in without legal consequence. Not only did Kamala support this law, she sponsored it. Although Mayor Gavin Newsom, who has not taken position, several of the city's most liberal leaders are supporting the far-reaching ban, including District Attorney Kamala Harris and 4 supervisors who are listed as sponsors. You know what makes this even wilder? Proposition H actually passed. So not only would gun owners in San Francisco have to turn in their guns, they wouldn't get any money for the guns that they paid for. They wanted to strip gun owners of their rights while selling them some utopian fantasy that's nothing but smoke and mirrors. And it wasn't until the court stepped in that Proposition H got struck down as unconstitutional. But that's not the point. The point is, Kamala Harris supported this handgun ban and confiscation. The same Kamala who is now trying to sell this wolf ticket.
Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away.
Oh, and let us not forget, in 2008, Kamala also fought against the Heller decision, a historic Supreme Court case that said that you, me, and every other U.S. citizen have an individual right to own a gun. Kamala led a group of prosecutors that tried to convince the Supreme Court that you don't have an individual right to own a gun, arguing that if the court ruled that you do have an individual right to own a gun, it would endanger state and local firearm laws.
Stole the FEMA money just like they stole it from a bank so they could give it to their illegal immigrants.
Well, 10 TV political reporter Doug Petcash looked into this for us tonight, and the question being, is FEMA running out of disaster relief funding because it's being spent on undocumented migrants? Doug, what's the answer?
Well, the answer is no, Angela. The administration did not divert money from FEMA's disaster relief fund.
I wanted to ask if the White House plans any legal responses for the state sending migrants on buses, and secondly, if there's plans to reimburse those cities or provide funding for how they're handling that.
So on your first question, it's basically we're referring. I was asked a question like this yesterday to Department of Justice on any legal actions that might be taken or being looked at. Certainly, that is for them to take a look at. As far as how we're supporting cities, so, as we've done many times in response to repeated attempts by these Republican officials to create chaos and confusion at the border, we are working to manage the consequences of including this latest political charade that we're seeing. So FEMA regional administrators have been meeting with city officials on site to coordinate available federal support from FEMA and other federal agencies. Funding is also available through FEMA's Emergency Food and Shelter Program to eligible local governments and non-for-profit organizations upon request to support humanitarian relief for migrants. We'll continue to do what we can as a federal government to support these cities as we rebuild our asylum processing system after it was gutted by the Trump administration.
Administration of using FEMA funding to support undocumented migrants. How is the White House responding to that?
I mean, it's just categorically false. It is not true. It is a false statement. And look, the fact of the matter is, I think Washington Post fact checker did a piece, and the headline recently, just moments ago, not too long ago, and the headline was, "No, Biden did not take FEMA relief money to use on migrants, but Trump did." I'll leave it there.
Of Hurricane Helene, listen.
We are meeting the immediate needs with the money that we have. We are expecting another hurricane hitting. We do not have the funds. FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season.
This all comes as the Biden-Harris administration spent over $1 billion from a FEMA program on services for migrants.
The latest group, which could be as large as 2,000 migrants, follows at least 2 others just this month, with some saying they're coming now because they're worried about what will happen after the November election.
Christopher, look at the pictures we're showing on TV, right? I mean, the number of people who are coming and headed our way. We're told it's 3 additional caravans. Do you have any idea in terms of where that stands? Are they waiting until after the election?
That's exactly what they're doing. There's hundreds of thousands right now, Maria, in southern Mexico, just waiting for the election. They want to see what's going to happen.
New York City's mayor pushing back on criticism of a new $50 million program to hand out prepaid debit cards to migrant families.
We need to dispel the rumor that we gave American Express cards to everyone.
Adams insisting the prepaid cards would curb the cost of inefficient food distribution that has led to expensive food waste, potentially saving taxpayers roughly $7 million a year. Adding the cards can only be used for food and baby supplies, with a limit of up to $1,000 per month for a family of 4.
Is this country being too lenient with offering taxpayer-funded help and assistance to migrants, or is it necessary help? Some people are upset about this. There are many companies in America who offer special loans to those who may not be citizens or they're migrants. There are also monetary assistance programs that are offered to non-U.S. citizens or migrants who may not be in this country legally. In one video, an American business owner in tears said she was not able to get a loan to start her business, but a migrant was able to secure a special loan to buy her business.
But I need my president to tell me why I worked so hard all these years, all these decades. Couldn't get a business loan, but I bust my ass to get the money to create my business.
Now we turn to the home front. Veterans returning from the front lines are facing a sad and stunning statistic. By one estimate, nearly 50,000 veterans will experience homelessness each year. But there are new efforts to help vets who have fallen through the cracks. And just this week, a sign of progress. Here's ABC's Bob Woodruff.
This is me.
Last month in downtown New Orleans, U.S. Army vet Darren Dalpiez finally found a home. He has been homeless for over 10 years, living in a tent in the woods and on the streets.
I got windows. Look at the view. Oh my goodness, for real, this is fault for me?
But this past holiday, he and 25 other homeless vets got addresses of their own, thanks to the work of a nonprofit, Unity.
These are permanent apartments where each tenant has a lease and they can live here for the rest of their lives.
This week, New Orleans will announce that it has successfully met its goal and housed all 193 of its homeless veterans.